So he's got me genes, I think. Genetic fitness.
What do you reckon? I mean, you kind of see the references. I'm all right.
Good.
So, yeah. So, how are you? You came direct from 3 Mile Island.
A very real hello from 3 Mile Island.
Right,
They wish you everything that you wish yourself.
I'll bet. So how was that? That was like, how many days are you into this tour?
The gig was actually between 3 Mile Island and the Hershey chocolate factory.
Oh, I've been there. You've been on the little ride? You can go on a little ride on little cars.
I didn't touch anything there, especially not the chocolate.
Right. No, but I've been there. So of no interest whatsoever. Really,
it was an incredibly uninteresting town.
Was it?
Yes.
Right, okay. In contrast, I mean, like, we're sitting here on Broadway. I mean, obviously you appeared on Broadway when you were doing Elephant Man.
Yeah, 1980.
Right. So have you got a place here, or do you get a bed and breakfast when you hit New York?
Yeah, B&B. And big B&B.
Yeah.
I think floating around is just the only thing you know on tour.
Right.
I'm just toured out now, and we've just only done 3
started.
gigs. That's what I mean. My attention span is incredibly short.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk loads about the tour and about the new album and all kinds of things. Have you met the boy Lard? Do you know?
Nice to meet you, David.
Very nice to meet you. Let's shake hands.
Absolutely.
He's set all this up, and like, he's obviously he's got aspirations to be an in-depth, serious interview. So I've allowed him one question with you, which we may as well get out of the way first. It's going to be a good one, isn't it? You're not going to embarrass me.
It's a whopper.
Right, go on then. Well, let's
David, what's Barry Bethel really like?
You've been told, haven't you? I'm following the Barry Bethel diet. That's why I'm in such good condition. It's a way of life to me.
I'll drink to that.
Well, what's the significance of Barry Bethel?
Well, he did the adverts, didn't he? And he did the Ziggy tour. He introduced David on the Ziggy tour.
Barry
You just don't
used
understand.
to introduce the Ziggy tour in 1972 back in Britain. Yeah, in a Teddy Boy jacket.
Yeah, blooming heck. Yeah. Right, so you got a great start in showbiz, and then he finished up doing adverts on the telly.
Well, Mr. Slim Fast.
There you go. You see, there's a showbiz tale. Anyway, right, we're in New York with David Bowie. We'll have the current single from the album, and then we'll get rid of the boy Lard and ask some proper questions. The Lesson, which is the current single from David Bowie's new Outside album, and just looking at the sleeve to that, which we've been commenting. Do you remember George and Mildred, David? Do you remember that?
It doesn't look a bit like Mildred.
No, but there's a George element to that. So,
it's the Mac.
So tell us about this album. It's The Diary of Nathan Adler, Art Detective. So no holds barred. It's a concept album.
Absolutely, but Brian had thought that concept albums. There's not been many around recently, and there's probably some very good reasons.
Brian being Brian Eno.
Oh, is that what his last name is? Little fella, bald head, very intelligent. And we just thought we would do something that really is sort of out of use at the moment. And sort of the idea of doing a concept thing we thought would be an interesting way to get involved back in music again.
Well, I mean, you've never shied away from concepts in the past, have you? I mean,
no.
a long time ago. I mean, people shy away a bit, I think, because they think they're going to get accused of being pretentious. But you once said you wanted to start a school of pretension anyway.
Oh, I think I did. Very successfully.
So, I mean, presumably...
it's the thing with concept. I think every album is a concept album. I mean, it's very rare that a band or an artist will put together just a bunch of diverse songs.
Yeah.
There's usually a kind of a thread running through an album, except you're not supposed to use the word concept, But we thought we'd bring it back into...
And it's not linked by lots of dialogue with you putting on seven different voices.
Absolutely different hats.
So what's for the uninitiated, which is everybody at the moment because it's not out, what's the concept?
I think what we were trying to do was, in musical text and words, was just do a summary of what it sort of feels like to be around in 1995, and to kind of get you through it. The narrative and the characters were really a thread. You don't really need to take any notice at all of the narrative of characters. You can treat all the songs autonomously as just separate pieces. Yeah. It's really about the audience having their own interpretation, which I'm very much in favour of.
Right. Yeah.
Really, I sort of feel that my intent is not really that important.
But, I mean, there is a basic story behind it, though, isn't there? Because you've
as loosely knit as possible, because I don't really want to tie the ends up, just like life. I just keep it untidy, because I don't know where on earth it's going to go on the next album, because we're going to keep this series of albums going through till 2000.
Right. So it's a to be continued then. You don't want to put it
but it might not even have narrative on the next album.
Right.
I mean, we might just break away from the form of it completely. It's very much going to be dictated by what the year feels like. That was the year that was.
So this is all. I mean, it's all very
with a backbeat.
Sure. I mean, it's all very oblique in that the concept. But I mean, there are some murders that go on. It does take place in a town which is near here. So.
Yeah, but we took the idea of ritual art, which is so prominent, especially the last 10 years in the visual arts, and just sort of extrapolated on that and thought, well, how far out could it go? And you get to the point where maybe murder itself was considered a fine art.
Right. Well, it's got pretty close.
It's got really, there's been some extraordinary stories. subsequent to our putting the album together, in fact. There was a Dutch artist called Rob Schultz who got his legs blown off by apocryphally a fellow artist just a few months ago in Holland.
Was this the bloke who then got put in a bag and thrown on the...
No, that was...
Who was that? Because he got shot and put in a bag and thrown on the Autobahn or something.
Yeah, but that was just hate.
Right.
No, he was art, you're right. His name was Chris Burden, and he came out of San Francisco, and he did that in 1975.
Right.
And in fact became the subject of a song that I wrote called Joe the Lion.
Oh, right. I always thought that was about your son.
No.
Yeah, no. But I mean, it's the concept actually loosely set not far from here, isn't it? Fictitious Oxford Town.
Yeah, New Oxford Town,
New Jersey.
which doesn't exist in New Jersey, which does exist. And we just felt we needed a landscape for the whole thing. And the whole thing was written in the studio in an improvisational way. So you kind of just develop, as I was improvising over the music, I just sort of was just working all these ideas that I had in my head, and it just became a landscape with characters,
Right. I mean, people are already drawing parallels with, like, Diamond Dogs.
Yeah,
there's like a kind of
it in it.
nightmare vision of not the future now, but the present.
Yeah, I think when you're as old and sage and wise as I am, that you look back. I've done so many albums now that I kind of draw from my own albums now.
Yeah.
I very rarely go outside of my own work in a way.
Yeah.
And I'm able to use a lot of the ideas from the past and recontextualize them like now, and they kind of say something different.
I mean, when you go for a big project like this and you kind of get all these high-flown ideas and you get carried away with it, is there anybody like close enough to you to say, hang on, Dave, we've gone right over the edge this time, we can't do that?
No, thank God.
Right. It's entirely up to you. David, do they mean anything to you, men's wear?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. What do you do? Do you get records sent over when you're on? I mean, because you do keep up with stuff.
No, I know a record shop.
Oh, right, so you do...
I buy a lot. I generally listen to everything all the time.
Right.
I like keeping up with what's going down,
And
not much of it. I mean, you only end up with a couple of things at the end of a year that actually stay with you.
Yeah. And so what are the ones
I'll tell you what I love this year, I've got to admit, is... one that never saw the light of day, really, is Scott Walker's Tilt. I thought that was absolutely extraordinary.
Now, I'm a Scott Walker fan, and I couldn't get on with that at all.
Really?
I mean, it was just like, that is...
There's a couple of skippers there. There's two or three tracks that I would go past, but I thought some of the writing was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I found it a bit scary, that, but perhaps that's not a bad thing. And we were talking about sandwiches before that. I mean, someone has delivered you this, like, enormous, there's a sort of like a skyscraper of a sandwich,
Well, this is a small one.
Is it, right? So, I mean, you're sort of so sylph-like. So are you on the Barry Bethel diet? I mean, you can't eat 10 sandwiches like
Barry
that
said this was okay, said turkey's okay.
Oh, right.
Yeah, there's no saturated fats and
right,
stuff like
okay.
that.
What about you, Lard? Have you had any sandwiches recently?
No, just beer, basically.
Right.
A bit of
They do a
wine,
good beer sandwich down the road.
Fabulous beer sandwich. That's what it's known for, isn't it, New York?
Well, it's actually, because it's America, it's beer and sprouts. But it's
perfect.
Yeah, essential. Right, we'll have the title track from Davy's new album, and then we'll send Lard out for beer and sprout sandwiches, and we'll talk some more. Outside, that's the title track of David Bowie's new album, which, as we already mentioned, you've been working with Brian Eno again. I suppose a lot of people are kind of gotten dewy-eyed and nostalgic for your old Eno collaboration. Pleased to see you back with him, I guess.
Yeah, when Brian and his wife came to my wedding in '92, and inevitably we started talking about what we're doing in music.
Yeah.
And once again, our ideas about what we needed to do and what we enjoyed doing were exactly the same.
Yeah.
And it was just like having a weekend off those 12 years or so that we weren't working together.
Yeah.
As soon as we got back in the studio, it was as easy as falling off some logs.
I mean, what is it about working with him that kind of... What does he give you that other people don't give you?
I think it's because he's inventive conceptually. I mean, he kind of makes it more of some kind of game format in the studio. The first thing that we did, he brought over some material from London.
I read about this.
Some real sort of high coloured material, and we redecorated for the first day.
So were you a haberdasher in a past life or something,
sort of. Well, we've even done that. I mean, that's how we got around to me doing wallpapers, really.
Yeah.
It was Brian and I, for some benefit thing for War Child that Brian was organising, we decided we'd do a bathroom interior decoration stall at the end of the gallery. We didn't have time to do it, but we were going to have wallpapers and tilings and stuff that we'd designed as an installation.
It just seems unlikely thing for you want to do, redecorate the bathroom. Did you try it at home, put it up and say to the wife, what do you think about this? Do you think this will
Several times a month, yeah. Yeah.
But, I mean, it seems odd to make... Well, anyway, go back to the studio. This was in Montreux, yeah?
Yeah. We did also a lot of work in New York as well, backwards and forwards. And so we got the band in to help redecorate, and then we thought we'd better do some music as well. But we started as a series of just Brian throwing out different ideas and for kind of characters for us all, you know.
Yeah, so you finished up being, what was it,
I was a
town crier,
soothsayer. Griot,
right.
I think was the word, which is an African storyteller.
Right.
So I had to tell stories.
Oh, right. And so everybody in the band gets a different part to play, do they?
Yeah. What happens, they forget the parts as soon as they start playing. But for those first 15 seconds when they start playing, they come in characters, so the music doesn't become just a regular kind of jazzy or bluesy, you know, one of those awful jams where it's inevitably a 12-bar blues. So they're coming from kind of spacey places. You know?
So what were some of the other parts? Like what? Milkman, painter and decorator?
Almost, yeah. One guy was a disgruntled ex-member of Clash. And so he was... No, that was his part.
Right.
And so he was supposed to play all the notes he wasn't allowed to play when he was with them, for instance.
Yeah.
You know.
And how does it work then? So that affects the way they play?
It definitely does, yeah. And also it kind of takes their inhibitions away, because it's all... You know, at a party, for instance, when you got these really quiet, rather sour in-laws, and you say, well, let's have a game of charades, and then you give them something they know, and they become different people.
Right.
And it's almost the same kind of thing. You give them something to break down their inhibitions, and they do things that maybe they wouldn't have done.
Yeah.
It's a nice way of working.
And when you do, I mean, obviously, like in the past, people are sort of familiar with the big concerts. You'd only play characters, the Ziggy and the Lad and Sane, and thing like Duke and all that. I mean, do you think that? Do you feel more comfortable yourself performing sort of at one remove with a character in between you? And
Actually, funnily enough, no. As you saw from the show the other night, we're doing the stuff from outside very much just as songs. You know? And I'm very happy just. I really have fun with the music now, you know, and I got my whole attitude about going on stage is if I'm not having fun, I'd rather not be doing it. So I go out very carefree. I really have no expectations from audiences, and if they're kind of really, as they were the other night, really sort of listening and great, really fabulous audience, that makes it even better, you know, it makes it really good.
I mean, one of the things also that people know about is you used to write lyrics occasionally by cutting things up and pasting them together and that, and you said you still had a bit of sort of paint and trace sessions in that, don't we? We do a lot of it on your Apple Mac now.
Yes. There was a writer, an American writer, William Burroughs, who really initiated that style of writing, cutting up phrases, and sort of retrieving that strange information that maybe the subconscious knows about, all that Freudian stuff. But I kind of, I've used the same method since the early 70s, but now I've got a program for the computer that does it for me and much faster.
Right.
So I'm swinging along internet there.
Okay, and you put this band together for this album, and like, one of the names I was sort of really interested to see back there from the old days was Mike Garson, pianist extraordinary, never a man to play two notes where he can get a couple of thousand in.
He's the only guy that I would trust with the same space that a lead guitarist would normally take. Mike can... He plays so eccentrically and knows really no bounds that if he does play a solo, it's going to keep the attention as much as any guitar player.
Right, okay. We're going to play another track from it, We Prick You, which is one that you've chosen. Is there anything you want to tell us before we play it, or should we just play it?
It's just dotty.
Right, okay then. This is We Prick You from Outside. We Prick You from David Bowie's new album Outside, and we've got loads more of that to come. We're in New York, me and the boy Lard with David Bowie. Blur, do they mean anything to you?
Yeah, I like them a lot. I like their new video by Damien Hirst, the well-known sheep herder.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I've been told it's very Benny Hill.
It's very colourful. It's very British, you know. I'm not sure how it would play in America, but I like that. It's just so bright and daft. I like it a lot.
Because I mean, Americans might go for that, because we're talking about like Portishead, who just won the Mercury Music Prize, and we're getting some bad reviews for their live gigs in the States.
Yes, I think it's tough over here for British bands. It's that they hold a lot of store by touring in the States, and about working stage and all that, you know. And I think they kind of expect you to deliver. I don't know. I think it's pretty difficult for some of the newer British bands if maybe they haven't had that much, you know, performance experience behind them.
Well, so like Porty said, I mean, I read some reviews of Oasis from the States, and like the thing they couldn't get their head around, the American audience, was that they stood still.
Yeah.
And so, you know, is that a problem, do you think, for...
Well, it's... Yes, I guess it is, isn't it?
That's why Alvin Stardust never cracked.
Well, is it? Almost didn't move much. And we were talking last night with, like, you know, Suede, of course, you're well familiar with them.
I don't know, did they come over here, Suede?
They came in with the Cranberries, didn't they?
Yeah.
And
Cranberries did quite well.
Cranberries did quite well, and Suede was supposed to be headlining and didn't do as well. Yeah. But, I mean, we were saying, like, maybe the Americans never quite gone for that sort of androgynous thing, really.
No, I don't think so. Well, except, there again with the newer bands, I think probably people like Trent Reznor, for instance, or Billy out of Smashing Pumpkins.
Right.
There's a kind of a move toward that particular persona, I think.
Right. What were the kind of, we were talking about the kind of records that form the basis of your understanding of American music? What were the
first three that really mattered to me of white artists were the Village Thugs, Frank Zappa and the Mothers with Freak Out, and the Velvet Underground first album. Those three really became the nucleus of my listening in the 60s.
It was really sad that Sterling Morrison
that was very sad.
Died the other way. Did you see the Velvet Underground when they got back together again and did that?
I tell you, I saw it even funnier than that. When I very first came over to the States in about 1970, one of the things that happened, I heard the Underground were playing in New York. It was like, this was a magic event for me, and I was all on my own. It was my first trip over here. So I went to see their gig, and during the break, I got to speak to Lou, and I said, oh, great. And I was going on and on about his writing, and he was nodding, and yeah. And then halfway through, he said, look, Lou's actually left the band. I'm Doug Yule.
Oh, right, yeah.
And it looked identical to Lou.
Yeah.
The guy was the spitting image, but it was such a bring down because I was thinking, he's as good as I thought he was on stage,
Right, okay. We'll talk about your current stage show after we've had a track. Well, interestingly, this is a track from your old pal Brian Eno.
Oh, good.
1973, and we were talking to David Bowie while that was on. We were both wishing that Brian Eno would do more songs, do a bit more singing.
I think he's got a great voice. It sounds slightly insane, his voice. He does very good pop songs.
Yeah, I love it when he does that.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the other stuff he does as well. I'm not knocking it. I wish he'd do a couple more songs. And also, I didn't know about. I never realised this that you've got northern roots.
Yeah, well, I was just saying to you, I got this really annoying habit that if I'm with somebody from the North Country, that I start lapsing back into that way of talking. Because my father was from Yorkshire and my mother was from Lancashire. Right. So if nobody from the North is around, I'm back in London again, and I'm down there. But as soon as, like with Damien First, for instance, he's in the North Country, and he said, I didn't know you came from the North Country. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you're talking with the Yorkshire accent. Yeah. I said, I'm sorry. So it's like sitting in a room with me dad, listening to you talking, and I just got lapsed back into it.
Slip back into
it. It's really odd.
Yeah. Now, this tour you're doing, I mean, I know actually, after we finish this show tonight, you're off on the bus to Toronto.
Yeah.
Now, you see, I'm quite surprised. Like, why do you want to go on a coach? Because you have
Because he's got no wings.
Well, that's it. You've still got a terrible fear of planes.
I don't like it at all. I mean, I never got easy with it. But, I do it. I did stop for about 6 years. I never flew anywhere and had to go everywhere by liner and well, not on the ground, but when we hit a sea.
Yes.
But sometimes I didn't know the difference. But now I've gotten back into flying, and I fly now, but I don't like it. I'll do as little as possible.
Right. This tour, you hooked up with Nine Inch Nails, so how did all that come about? Are you a fan of theirs? Are they a fan of yours?
I think they're terrific, especially the second album, Downward Spiral. I think that's great. It's... At the beginning, over the last few years, it's been quite noticeable in this country, America, that a lot of the new bands are quite influenced by a lot of the British acts from the early 70s, T-Rex, myself, and Roxy, for instance. Yeah. And Trent particularly was talking a lot about the work that I did and the work that I did with Brian. And so on spec, when Virgin, the record company over, asked me if I would support the album with the tour, I said, I'd love to, but I'd like to take someone out with me. And I gave Trent a phone. And he just finished something like a 12-month tour. But said if he only had to do it for 6 weeks, he'd love to do it. So he's on with me, and we're working together on stage as well.
It's quite an interesting thing, isn't it? Because they do a set, and then there's a sort of transition, isn't there?
Yeah, it works. It works so well for both of us. Because the audiences are so entirely different from each other. His is very industrial-oriented, mosh pit, kind of audience, and so we sort of. We got about a 30-minute spot where we both worked together and kind of introduced the audiences to both our ideas that kind of touch it, where we have a kind of a point of common ground.
Well, it is quite interesting to see you sometimes doing sort of Jacques Brel torch song singing in front of this mosh pit of industrial goths.
It's fantastic. They sort of body surf into Jacques Brel, which is kind of very, very late 20th century, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, very deconstructed, post-modernist.
Absolutely.
Post-ironic.
Yeah, post-ironic.
Yeah, I would have thought. Well, we'll talk more about the show at the moment. We're going to play Hello Space Boy, which is, I think now this is the one where there's 3 drummers on stage, isn't it? There's 2 of theirs and one of yours.
Yeah, we scouted around for a few more, but we only came up with 3 drummers.
You only go to the lads club, get the local pipe and drum band. They have like 14 drummers. So from the album, this is Hello Space Boy, and we'll be back with David after this. Hello Space Boy from the album Outside. This is one of your character voices. We haven't got all the effects to do that, please.
That wasn't me, actually. That was the other Mark.
Right. Oh, was it? Right, indeed. Now, obviously on this tour, you're playing most of this new album. It's like a lot of unfamiliar stuff. So
everything.
Yeah.
Everything. I mean, I think only... maybe people that have know my material really well would even recognise a lot of the old ones, you know, because they're kind of more obscure tracks that I've never done live. A majority of them, like Joe the Lion and Teenage Wildlife and those sorts of things. So it's really, in a way, I guess it's really tough on the audience, and I'm really appreciative of the way that everybody's listening over here. It's great.
I mean, in a way, you sort of burnt your boats because you did the Sound and Vision, the greatest hits tour and everything. You said, right, that's it out of the way. I'm not going to play these again. Yeah. So you had to move on from there, really, didn't you?
Well, that was the reason I did it, because I didn't want to settle into having to do those because they were expected. Just to keep working as an artist, you want to set yourself new parameters, you know. And for me, it was really important to keep pushing where I could go musically, you know.
I mean, was there a time when you didn't? Because you sort of look back over some of the albums in the 80s and said, actually, I must hold my hands up now and say, actually, some of them really weren't that good.
There's two there that I've always been disappointed with, and it's partly because of my indifference towards making them. I was really feeling kind of, I wasn't friendly with music anymore after Let's Dance, you know. I didn't like that period. That whole period for me was one of the really depressing periods artistically. And so I have big problems with Tonight and Never Let Me Down. But of the 25 or so albums I have made, those are the only two that I'm not too keen on.
I mean, did you ever feel like the knack of writing songs had deserted you?
No, it's just lack of wanting to bother.
Right. Why was that then? What was it?
Because I felt I was in the mainstream.
Right.
And I felt, well, I'm going to be locked in here. I'm going to have to please people and all that. You know, I fell foul of that. But when I then decided just to please myself again, everything started going okay again.
Did you ever come close to jacking it in totally?
Not really. I don't think I'd ever do that. But I did do a lot more sort of visual arts instead. I painted and sculpted a lot during the 80s, as opposed to doing music.
I mean, so what did you do to get back into that? I mean, it's sort of like, in a way, you become very vulnerable because you're almost like, instead of trusting your instincts, you start to look for a direction. And okay, you may sort of like latch onto some industrial thing. You know, you could hear Bavarian Oompa one day and think, oh, I'll do that.
I think so. I think that is a danger. But fortunately, I got friendly with a guy called Reeves Cabrels, who's now my guitar player.
Yeah.
So almost on a permanent basis. In the mid to late 80s, about 87, 88, we kind of hitched up. And at that point, he was a godsend, really, because Reeves, he sort of said, you know, what you're really best at and what everybody enjoys about what you do is when you get experimental and just kind of follow your own nose about what you should be doing. And he sort of got me into that frame of mind again, I guess. Plus my own dissatisfaction with what I was doing. And that's when we formed Tin Machine, precisely to do that, to break down all idea of what it was that I was. And so I kind of, from that point, everything I've done from that point, with Tin Machine included, is work that I really stand by and really adore.
I mean, were you disappointed when people, because Tin Machine got a right slagging, didn't they?
Yeah, but that, you know something, those albums sound really great. They sound really great. I'm really proud of a lot of that work. No, I like everything I've done since around 88, 89.
So you're enjoying being back on stage? You look like you were enjoying it the other night.
Having a ball.
Doing your puppet dance. And
I'm having a ball. Well, yes, that's a new step, you know.
Right, is it? Yeah.
It's very good, isn't it?
Well, he's been doing that for
hours to work.
Well, he's been doing that for years, but by accident, really.
Well, that's,
the boy,
frankly, I caught him one night doing it.
What's your pre-gig ritual? I mean, like, do you take ages to get ready and not, you know, kind of want people smoking in the same room? Do you choose your own clothes, do your own hair? What do you do?
I turn up, you know. I mean, I'm only wearing a tank top this tour, so it's not exactly a 10-hour procedure.
Right, so you don't go through any elaborate thing like that?
No, I go shopping generally.
Do you?
Yeah, depending on the city.
Yeah.
I'll go and have a walkabout.
Right. I mean, you don't have a sort of a team of acolytes and stylists around you. You sit there with
look at this
tub of gel.
I'm not bad with a bit of hair gel. I mean, if you're struggling on the tour, you know, I can tease it up nicely. It's not a problem. Can you let me go?
With the greatest of ease, boy, Lard, with the greatest of ease. Kylie and Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds.
That's really good, isn't it?
You like that?
Yeah, I like that a lot.
You like that style of saying, we were talking about Tindersticks and Lee Hazelwood and people and that, and you're saying that Julian Schnabel, who you were...
Yeah, Julian Schnabel, the painter. I did a film with him recently on Jean-Michel Basquiat, a young black painter that committed suicide in the 80s. I played Andy Warhol. But Julian, just before that, had done an album himself.
Yeah.
He did it with... who was it now? I don't remember. Material, Bill Laswell.
Right,
Bill Laswell was the band.
Race band,
yeah, fantastic band. And it kind of has the same quality, you know, it's like that Cohen, Lou Reed feeling. It's not bad, actually.
Are we going to see that film in England?
Yeah, New Year comes out.
Is that true that you played with, you played in the part in that film with the original Warhol clothes? You went and got his gear? Yeah,
we got all his stuff from the museum set up in Pittsburgh. They lent us everything, and it was really kind of spooky because... nothing had been cleaned, you know, and his clothes still had the aftershave smell and everything.
Thank God for that.
Yeah, it was really odd.
Yeah. And what about the wig? Is that authentic?
That was a genuine wig.
Right.
And it was made by somebody like JoJo Wig Creations on Broadway. You know, I mean, it's like, he obviously got really junky wigs.
And there was a bit of makeup, wasn't there? He found his makeup kit that he used to patch up his face with when he was out and about.
We got the kind of little bag that he used to carry around when he took into the hospital with him for the last, time. It had like his notebook and addresses and old torn up checks and a little sticker pancake. That he obviously used when he went out shopping.
And what about the film? Are you pleased with it? Have you seen the finished thing yet, or is it still being cut together?
No, because as soon as I finished working, I went straight off to rehearse for the tour.
Right, now. And so we see the film in the new year. You're on tour. The important news for people listening is that you are going to play in England this year.
Yeah. And it's going to be real soon as well. Hopefully, it's going to be November.
Right.
So, but we'll have an official announcement hopefully Thursday this week.
Oh, so that's going to be with the 9 Inch Nails as well, or?
No, as I say, Trent would only do the first 6 weeks, and so we're working through some other ideas for England and Europe.
So you're looking for another band to do the same sort of thing with? And right, okay. Any ideas yet? Anything?
Yeah, lots.
Right, okay. We're going to play, what about Tricky? Because you've been...
I love Tricky, I think they're great.
Track of the album.
Really happening.
And you wrote a thing in Q about Tricky. So,
Yes, yeah.
So you're going to turn into rock journalism, you're going to add that as well to your...
No, just only if I can do it my own way.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, we did that.
Q magazine are really cool though. They just let me ramble on,
The Boy Lard with David Bowie. Of course, Dave Grohl, that's his new band from that, and they did that cover version of Man Who Sold the World.
It was incredible to hear that.
I mean, did that sort of bring a new audience to you for this tour?
I don't know. I mean, obviously the only two things they recognise are Andy Warhol, which was covered by Stone Temple Pilots, and this one, by that Kurt did. So I guess they're partly very much responsible for sort of bringing people to that older stuff. Yeah.
I'm sorry you're having to sit here. I mean, like, you sat there just looking gormless, aren't you?
Well, that's my job.
Well, yeah, you've obviously got your eye on David's half-finished sandwich and everything.
Nice, looks like
why can you not do anything useful, seeing as you've come all this way?
Well, what I was thinking of doing is going out on the streets and talking to people.
It's looking good, yeah. I'm liking it so far.
Do you like the sound of that?
Yeah.
And, there's all these New Yorkers, because we're in New York, aren't we?
Brilliant.
So what I'm going to do is go out with a microphone.
Yes.
And I'm going to talk to them, you see. I'm just going to stop and talk to the local colour. And also I'm going to do that after the next tune, I think.
Okay, great. Oh, that's fantastic. Vox Pops with the Boy Lard on the streets of New York. In the meantime, from 1989, we'll have the Pixies and Debaser from the Doolittle album. And you used to play this. With Tin Machine?
It was a wonderful band, Pixies. They're kind of Reeves Cabril's old buddies.
Right, from Boston. And Okay, then. So we'll have the Pixies, and then we'll have Boy Lard on the streets of New York. Homesick, talking about Liverpool and Blackburn, David. It's maybe
homesick from New York. They found a different New York from me.
Right, okay. We're going to have another track from Outside. This is Small Plot of Land. Is this about your dad's allotment in Tadcaster?
It is, yeah. Flat cap in the garden shed.
It's all right to fade it there, is it?
Well, there's another 17 minutes, Mark, but, you got the gist.
The gist. There's going to be heavy rotation, isn't it, that?
It's the next single.
Is it? Yes. A wise choice. The Small Plot of Land from Outside by David Bowie, with David Bowie in New York for about another 11 minutes, after which it will be Wendy Lloyd. So, where do you live now, then? You don't live in New York. You're homesick for England occasionally. Where's home?
No, well, not, I come back and see my friends frequently throughout the year.
Yeah.
And, in tour, you never really know where you are. I mean, I'm just here all the time now.
Right.
And during the course of the year, Iman and I like to spend our time all over Europe and all over America.
Where's your main house? Is it Switzerland?
Yeah,
is it?
still
You've got the main house. Yeah. And what about your son Joe? Because he's at college in the States, isn't he?
That's right. Yeah, he's just started his doctorate in philosophy, so he's going to. What do you do when you've got philosophy? I suppose you write a lot.
I suppose. Was he pleased when whose idea was it to change his name from Zoe back to Joe? I mean...
Well, actually, it was circumstances. It was, at the time, I found it a lot easier to attract his attention in a crowd by calling him Joey as opposed to Zoe.
Right.
People wouldn't because they know Zoe, especially in England, immediately.
Yeah.
But if I used Joey, it didn't attract attention to him.
Yeah.
So it's kind of stuck.
Right, yeah. Because you spent quite a lot of time as a single parent, because you did sort of bring him up, didn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, so was that difficult? Because obviously you had a lot of kind of famous battles against drugs and all kinds of things, so that make it easier or more difficult,
No, we've had, the thing is, we never really had a kind of, I guess you'd call it a celebrity tight life, Joe was never exposed to all that.
Yeah.
Because I've actually lived quite quietly, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And so he's not had to go through that as much. Maybe some of the children of my contemporaries or whatever
Yeah.
have had to go through different things, but it's been a pretty regular life for him.
Right. And what do you do for when you're not playing? I mean, obviously you're on tour at the moment and everything. I mean,
Yeah.
and we know you're painting, you write, and all kinds of things. I mean, what
Yeah.
do you do when you really want to put? Do you ever get like a takeaway curry, take your shoes off, put them on the coffee table, and watch the darts championships on the telly?
No,
What
I have
do
a
you
little
do?
radio station at home and I broadcast to the living room. Yeah.
Just sit there playing all your favourite
Yeah,
records.
yeah.
That's pretty much what I do.
Yeah, it's
So,
like this, you know, all these tape machines.
Yeah. Do you have a boy lard? Have you got sort of a feckless lump of lard you can wheel in from the suburbs of Gstaad?
I've got a shot mannequin and I just, then I throw my voice.
Now-
Stereo mics.
Now that is a smart move, isn't it? Because I could have just put him in a flight case.
Don't give him any ideas, David, please.
This is a
He
really...
told me you did keep him in a flight case.
Well, it has been known. It has been known. This is a sort of a crass question, but I mean, of all your albums, apart from the most recent one,
CRASS. Yeah, okay, got it.
apart from the most recent one, because that's always the kind of the thing you're most interested in, the favourite one. Have you got one that you look on more fondly than all the others? Or do you want a bit to think about it? Shall I play a record and you can think about it? All right, we'll have some New York Dolls, and you had some wild times with the Dolls in your time, didn't you?
I think, yeah, they introduced me to New York.
Right, okay, best people
In
to do
only
it.
the way that they could, yeah.
I mean, they're probably some of the few people who outdressed you at that time.
And outskated me. I mean, the first band I saw on roller skates.
Right, okay. These are the New York Dolls. The New York Dolls were two of the Mystery Girls from the second album, Too Much Too Soon. Excuse me, recorded in
Songs for falling down to.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So you had some wild times in New York with them, did you?
Yes.
Right, I'll
yeah,
bet.
fell down a lot.
So did you think of your favourite album out of all yours? Did you answer my crass question?
Yeah, somewhere between Diamond Dogs and Lodger.
Right,
Yeah.
those are the two ones. Right, so you're off to Toronto. How long does that take on the bus?
3.5 decades, I think.
And do you get your own fancy bus with a four-poster bed, or do you travel with the boys?
Yeah, we've got a bus where we all have. It's democracy. Four-poster beds.
Right.
So
it's
all on the same bus.
Right,
Oh, yeah. Just piled high. It's a very tall bus.
And we look forward to seeing you in the UK probably as early as November then.
Really looking forward to that,
If
yeah.
you can find a new band.
Thanks a lot, you guys.
Okay, no, thanks very much. And David Bowie's new album, Outside, is out on the 26th. We'll finish tonight. We've been debating about this and we decided to finish with the Sex Pistols from Nevermind the Bollocks 77, and this is New York.